Hello everyone, this is part 2 of our study of clauses, and this will go along with pages 92 through 94 in the packet that I gave you that goes over clauses. We're going to be looking at adjective clauses and relative pronouns, and we will find out that adjective clauses are subordinate clauses that act as adjectives. We remember too that clauses differ from phrases in that they have a subject and a verb. Phrases do not. But just like phrases, this group of words in the subordinate clause, they are going to perform some function within the sentence. And right now, we're looking at those clauses that act as adjectives. That's what these 3 pages in the packet are about. That's what this little presentation is about. These subordinate clauses are often introduced by relative pronouns. Let's take a look at some examples. Here's a simple sentence: PJ ran onto the field. That's a simple independent clause. But let's say that we want to add a little bit more information about PJ. Who is PJ? What is PJ? So we're going to add a little information. Who is our mascot? Now this is a clause. Who is our mascot is a clause, but it's a subordinate clause because obviously it cannot stand by itself as a sentence. I suppose if we put a question mark it could, but just by itself as a statement could not. And you can see that within this little subordinate clause, the verb is, the subject who, so it has a subject and a verb. Let's put those together. PJ, who is our mascot, ran onto the field. So now we have this subordinate clause stuck right in here behind the word PJ, and it's telling us something about PJ. Since PJ is a noun, who is our mascot? It's describing the noun. That makes it an adjective clause. Here's another example. A simple sentence: Pope John the 23rd is the best school in town. Let's say we want to add a little bit more information about Pope John the 23rd. Which is located in Katy. Okay, very much like the last example. Is the verb. Which is the subject of the clause. What is, which is. Okay, and again, this is subordinate, could not possibly stand by itself. We're going to put them together. You can probably guess how. There it is. Once again, this adjective clause is right next to the word that it modifies. Relative pronouns are an important part of those adjective clauses, and you can see on page 94 of your packet there's a list of some relative pronouns there, and that whole page really focuses on relative pronouns because very often, most of the time, the adjective clause will be introduced by a relative pronoun. Here are the ones that we just saw: the word who in this first sentence, and the word which in the second sentence. Relative pronouns relate the clause to the rest of the sentence. You see how that's where we get the word relative. It relates the clause to the rest of the sentence. Here's an example. Because the word who refers to a word in the other part of the sentence, the word, in this case, PJ. See, PJ ran onto the field. Remember, that's the independent clause. So this little word who in the subordinate clause is relating back to a word in the independent clause. So it's relating the two together. That's one of the functions of the relative pronoun. It's making the connection between the independent and the subordinate clause. and the relative pronoun will serve a function within its own clause. And I explained this a little earlier, I think, but who is our mascot. The word who is the subject in the little subordinate clause. Now it's time for you to do a little practice. If you haven't already, complete pages 92 through 94 in your packet. If you're very familiar with this grammar already, you might want to just do half, check them, see how you're doing. If you get them all right and you feel very comfortable with your knowledge, then you don't need to do the rest. This is, after all, just practice. And make sure that you understand the concept. Read the directions on each page very carefully. That's so important. Don't just skip down to the exercises, but read the explanations. They're very short, but they're very helpful. And then try writing 3 or 4 sentences that contain subordinate adjective clauses, and see if you can create some on your own. Again, this is not to be turned in. It's not for a grade. It's simply for practice, to make sure that you understand the concept of adjective clauses.